All right, we are live. Thanks for tuning into the Sheet Metal Shaping Podcast, where we discuss the pursuit of sheet metal shaping education through traditional coach building techniques. My guest today on the show, the one and only Mr. Tony Lauro, all the way from West Palm, Florida. What's up, man?
Not much. How you doing?
I love your background. That is so cool. We got a little Ferrari model back there. Looks like some race paraphernalia, hotshoestudios.
Yeah, that's a pit board that I did. A little pit board display and my little amalgam. One of my favorite cars. It's a P34.
Nice. Nice. P34. What year was that? 50s? 60s?
No, 67, I think.
Nice.
66. I forget.
Man, that's cool. hotshoestudios on Instagram. You are busy. Tell the folks about yourself.
Well, I do a little bit of everything. Automotive themed sculpture, furniture, anything I could get my hands on. I have a little bit of ADD, so I kind of jump all over the place.
In terms of what you're building specifically, so for furniture and for cars, are they all automotive themed, or do they all have their own flavor?
No, right now they're just all automotive themed. Just because I had such a love for cars, and that's my background. And it's easier from a marketing standpoint than to sell them and take them to shows. But everything's pretty much either Ferrari or, I mean, I don't just do Ferrari, although I am a Ferrari fanboy. But I do Porsche and other cars as well. So
nice. And give us your background. Like, where are you from? What's the story there? How did this come to be?
Well, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I grew up a car nut, and that led me to go into automotive design at the Cleveland Institute of Art. Which this is going way back now. I'm going to date myself. This is like I started in 89 and I graduated in 94. So that's kind of the peak of the car industry right there. And like most car designers and gearheads, my dream was always to build my own car. And growing up, and once I got obsessed with Ferrari and I started learning about coach building and everything, and then I combined my love with car design. I always wanted to learn how to shape metal. I was fascinated by it. Mm-hmm. So things didn't quite work out for me with car design, and I didn't get in with the big three. So I ended up bouncing around doing different design work, doing everything from like sport fishing boats to stand displays at Universal Studios. But the whole time I was still obsessed with cars. That's all I did. I would always sketch cars, work on cars. And that's when I decided I was going to learn how to metal shape. So I started saving up. Instead of going out, I'd save every penny I could for tools. And I'd look for any type of info I could find. And back then, it was primarily videotapes. So I have all like this old school library of Ron Cavell.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then Ron Fournier, I got hooked up with the late Ron Fournier. Mm-hmm. And that's when I went and I took a bunch of classes with him and his son. And I decided to just start learning metal shaping.
Is his son Dan Fournier?
Dan, yeah.
Yeah, I was chatting with him on Instagram a little bit a few months ago. Nice guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's actually, I have a soft spot in my heart for him because I did an extra day of just welding with him.
Cool.
Because I got to the point, you could shape all these really cool panels, and then you try and gas weld them. Yeah, you're blowing holes and everything. So that was an important part of the puzzle. So
very cool. Ron was on the show as well.
Oh, that's cool. I missed that one. I have to see.
Nice guy. Yeah. Really nice guy.
He was great, and I really liked. Looking back, it was really important for me, and I didn't know it at the time. Is his approach to teaching didn't focused on keeping things simple and without getting crazy with too many tools, and showing me that I can make all these cool panels without having $100,000 worth of tools. So
it's true,
and that was key for me starting out.
Yeah, I mean, like hammers, dollies, basic stuff. Have tools will travel kind of thing. You can make a lot of really great stuff with that.
Yeah, and the wheel was the biggest purchase back then. So
absolutely. You know what? There's something special about a wheel. Truthfully, it's just so quiet and methodical. I took a class with Ray Chalene, and he calls himself a jazz wheeler. He's got music on in the background, and everything's just like real la-di-da, real easy, real methodical. It's great.
Yeah, no, it really is. There's a certain zen to it. Like once you get zoned in, and it's a real peaceful, contrasting to like the power hammer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely,
It's like noisy and brash and like, let's bang this thing out. It's
Definitely.
cool. It's
And
cool.
anyone, you can put a wheel in your living room and get away with it. You know,
Right? Yeah.
anyone can get away with a wheel, really. Power hammer is that's a different story.
If you have neighbors, you gotta pick a side.
Yeah.
After you graduated school and got into doing more, cars and furniture and stuff like that, like how did that evolution evolve?
Well, wanted to build your own car and be, that's what I wanted to do when I was with Ron. I'm like, I'm gonna find a chassis and build my own car. And I quickly realized I didn't have the funds. That was kind of a big leap. So I had worked for the Ferrari dealer, so I was pretty entrenched in the Ferrari community. And then being a Ferrari fan, I'm like, well, what better way to practice metal shaping than just scale it down? And that's, and I had connections with one of the best Ferrari shows in the country, really, called Cavallino. That was once a year in my backyard. So I was like, well, I'm going to make quarter scale sculpture of a Ferrari. It's, I'll get to practice all the same techniques and I can afford to do it. And then I could sell it and then, feed my addiction. So that's kind of, what kicked it off. I jumped in full bore with that. And of course, everyone tells you, you're nuts when you first start out.
Oh yeah.
You're shaping metal.
That's how you're doing something right. Oh,
yeah.
Nuts. Beautiful.
No, and it's beautiful too, because it's the type of thing, if you just got to get your hands dirty and do it. And if you screw up, you toss it and grab another piece of aluminum and just keep going. And
yeah,
so that was good. And then it just took off from there. That was the only show I did in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily I had a really good reception with that. And that's kind of what kept me to keep doing Ferraris, because I had that right there in my backyard. I didn't have to travel. And,
that's amazing.
And that got me a ton of exposure. And then that hooked me up with all the right people going forward.
Very cool. So your artwork, is that hobby? Is that business? Where does that fall?
Actually, it's a little of both. When I first started it, I worked full time for a collector, taking care of his collection and doing all types of stuff, car related, maintenance related. And he had an extra warehouse next door.
Warehouse.
It's
like it's an inventory. Yeah.
Here's an extra 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So I talked him into letting me have a little shop there.
Nice.
So I would have my little shop there, and I would stay there like in the mornings or after. And then eventually I talked him into let me have do everything else in 4 days.
Cool.
And then do 1 day of my art. And
that's the dream, man.
Yeah. And it kept growing from there. And then it kind of evolved into what I have now, which is almost, I'd say 50-50, depending on, there was a downturn there for artwork, and the whole landscape of shows changed, because all the concourse, like Amelia Island and Pebble Beach, where you used to be able to display artwork, a lot of that has kind of disappeared.
Oh, really?
The shows are still there, but the space was too valuable. So I think they ended up giving it to, manufacturers, because Pebble Beach used to have a huge automotive art tent. And that's no longer. So
that would have been beautiful. I've been to one concourse d'elegance north of Toronto.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which is where I am, and they do one once a year. It's on the waterfront. Everybody parks on the golf course, and you go, and it's amazing. But they didn't have art there either. So I know what you mean now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, thank God, because of the internet and everything now, it's easier. But back before it was too big. I mean, even now though, is big and as great as the exposure is, a lot of that clientele, like my clientele, I'd say as high as 90% of them, they're not on Instagram or maybe Facebook. They're busy earning money. They're not on social media.
Scrolling, doom scrolling. Yeah.
No. So
did you ever hear the quote from Lamborghini? Somebody interviewed Lamborghini and he was like, somebody says, you probably heard this quote. And somebody goes, why don't you do TV commercials? And he goes, because my clientele aren't sitting around watching TV.
Oh, yeah.
Damn. Okay. Enough said.
There's a lot of truth to that too. So,
right. Yeah.
So the shows was a great way to meet them, and then the other thing about those concourse is, everybody, Ferrari guys call it the red mist. Like when they show up at, they're at the track and they all get that mist. They all think they're Schumacher or Enzo. So the concourse, those guys are all fired up. They're in a great mood, and they just want to buy stuff. So
do you find when you take somebody out of that setting, they feel differently? Like if they're scrolling on Instagram and they see this beautiful piece, it feels different than when you're at a show and you've got the romance in the air.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing that really hurts me, and I have to work on this, is Instagram, you lose the sense of scale, because a lot of the things I work with are really big. Yeah. And you kind of lose that whole wow factor, when you squeeze it down to that little format in your hand. And a lot of people aren't really that visual. So even like with that table, when I do a rendering and I show them the rendering, they'll, they get that look like, oh, and it's kind of, they say oh yeah, I get it. But you can see there's that deer in the headlights. Like it's a lot different than if it's in front of them and they can walk around and touch it. And so,
yeah, all five senses. Right?
Yeah.
It's important. And when you say like these shows were in your backyard, describe that. Like, what does that actually look and feel like?
I mean, it's pretty incredible. The Breakers is a historic property on Palm Beach Island. It's right on the ocean. So it's got all the history. And what they would do is, they have that golf course in front and they would set everything up there. And, it's just like Pebble, really. Everybody shows up all dressed up and it's just a whole, like, it was Wednesday to Saturday. So it's like almost a week events, and it's and then whenever you get a collective group of people that share passion, there's that certain electricity. It's great. It used to involve a track day.
Oh, no way.
Oh yeah, they had it was called Moroso, and they keep changing the name of the track, which is actually gone now, unfortunately.
Oh, did it get developed?
Yeah, it's going to be turned into like Amazon warehouses or some crap like that. Like
we'll do hot laps around the parking lot.
Yeah. But so the track day was, I mean, it was insane. You would see, all the top collectors. You'd see like 5 GTOs tearing around the track, 40 LM, all the cars that you can imagine.
Dude, can you imagine 5 GTOs? Like those cars are worth what, 50 million a piece? 70 million, I don't know, some crazy number, right?
It's nuts. Preston Hen had his I forget the serial number. It's a yellow 275 competition model. And supposedly that was like one of the world's most expensive cars. And he would track the hell out of that, talk to everybody. You could get rides and everything. And
cool.
So, just
who's Preston? Or is that a company?
Preston Hen was a gentleman that used to own a business called the Swap Shop, and he was a big collector. And he goes, he's got a lot of racing history, but unfortunately he passed away as well. He was up there, and but he has a huge Ferrari racing history. So
wow, that's amazing. What happened to his collection? Did it get auctioned off, or?
Yeah, sadly, it all gets the kids auction it all off. It ggets sold, and that a lot of that's changed. There's not there's very few track events. The environment has changed a lot.
Sure. You think that just comes with age, like in anything in art, business, collectibles? Do you think that comes with age?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the guys, as they get older, I think what they try and do is simplify, and they end up selling a lot of stuff. Some of them follow it right through to the end, but we all have this dream of, we're all pretty much gearheads. So if we had, if we all had unlimited funds, we'd have these massive collections too. But what we forget is, from my experience of taking care of one, it is a lot of work and a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier at the Lamborghini quote, these guys are all still working. They have to work so hard to have all that stuff that most of them sadly don't get to enjoy it as much as they should. So
sure.
I mean, we even had it to the point where I had to have an Excel spreadsheet just to keep track of like what was driven, and because you have to drive them, you can't let them sit.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Did I change the battery on that? Did I put new fuel in that?
Okay, oh yeah, no, that's exactly what it was too. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. What a job, man! Holy smokes, that's
I've been pretty lucky.
Jeez, the evolution from school to today's times, that's a pretty wild ride.
Yeah, it's nuts because you know, for a while there, you think it goes to show you, because when you're younger, you think, you know, I thought I had it all planned out.
Mhm.
I was gonna work for GM and design cars and be a big shot and all that. But life throws you curveballs, and then all the curveballs that threw me, like all my best connections were just by like chance.
Right.
Yeah, I just decided at one event, I went to one Ferrari event, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to stick around at the track. I was going to leave, and I was like, no, I'll stay a little bit more. And then I bumped into the gentleman that owned the Ferrari dealer in Fort Lauderdale, and that kicked off that part of my career.
Wow.
So
Wow. Seizing opportunity. I think
it
it's,
is. It
I think
is.
it's, which is completely unrelated to, sheet metal and like wheeling panels and stuff. But like in life, just in general, I mean, look what you did. You stuck
Yeah.
around, you put in the time, you put in the effort, and you shook somebody's hand and said, "Hey, where can this go?"
And that exactly. And that's why too, like with the Baileigh event we got to do. That's why I think those are, you know, those are really important, just because you get reinvigorated because you're around everyone, you know, like yourself, and it's addictive and you remember why you like to do it. But
Yeah.
it's important too, because you never know who you're going to run into or where it's going to lead. And
Yeah.
it's
Like, wait,
better.
go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
You know, it's better than being isolated. We're all kind of isolated nowadays, I think. So
I mean, like when you and I met in the Bailey event, you were eating lunch. I sat down next to you and just said hello.
yeah,
Right? And then we just got to chatting, and
yeah,
here we are doing a podcast months later. I mean,
yeah. See that? See how
it's
cool it
amazing.
is.
Let's talk about your shop.
Yeah. My shop, that's another, I don't want to say dumb luck story, funny story. So all right, I'll try and make this short because I talk a lot, as you can tell. My good friend who's bought a bunch of some of my artwork bought a 59 TR replica project that
Oh,
a gentleman started,
oh
and
my
he
God.
couldn't finish it. So he calls me up and he sends me all these pictures, and he's like, listen, I want to hire you full time. We got to finish this. I want to finish this. And I was like, oh yeah, of course, I'd love to finish it. But at the time I had 1,000 square foot, you know, a humble, modest shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I really don't have the space for it in my shop. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So he said, well, you know, I need some investment, some real estate investment. So why don't you find like a 5,000 square foot shop? We'll rent it, we'll share it, we can do the project there. So I said, you know, okay. So I started looking online, and one day I must have caught it like right when it came online. I
Yeah.
stumbled across old Champion Porsche had like a full-fledged 13,000 square foot professional shop that they created for when they ran Le Mans,
Hmm.
and they put it for sale, and I saw it. So I sent my buddy an email, and I'm like, hey, this
This
is
is
a
the
little
one.
bit bigger, but I
Yeah.
think this will be perfect. And it just as like a joke. And sure enough, my phone rang like right away. And he's like,
No.
you're going to think I'm crazy, but let's get it. I want it.
Oh my gosh.
So long story short, through fate or good luck or the good Lord, he ended up buying it. And so I ended up working out of there for him, and then still doing metal shaping and all that. But then he's a lot like me. And we both have ADD. We both take on too much, and you know, we've done like a whole gone down a whole bunch of different rabbit holes with
Yeah.
that space.
Like
But
multiple starts and different projects and stuff.
oh yeah, because at the time he owned a shop in New York that ran a Ferrari Challenge team.
Cool.
And most of the races were down here, so we were going to expand it to the Ferrari Challenge Team South,
Uh-huh.
and then we started doing a lot of parts. We got in the on a whim. We bought CNC equipment.
Why not? Right? What the hell?
I
Why not?
told
Let's
you
do
I have a
this.
problem. And we ended up, you know, because I love learning new things. And so when he suggested it, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. Well, how hard can it be? So thank God for the internet and training. And I basically learned, you know, CNC, and we started reverse engineering parts that aren't, and you know, Ferrari doesn't make anymore.
Yep.
And then we were converting F1 cars to manual cars.
Like paddle shift to manual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
F1 paddle shifts, because
Yeah.
F1 eventually the actuators go.
Mhm.
The actuators like like a $13,000 part.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, the market, manual cars were selling for more.
Yeah.
So people would convert them, and
Mhm.
and he's just a true gearhead too. Like I swear, we would work on lawnmowers.
That's
Like we
wicked.
would, yeah. So then I ended up doing a lot more like restoring. Like right now, I'm trying to wrap up. I've got a 63 and 267 Corvettes for him. Like I do most of those projects for him. Like
Yep.
we'll restore stuff and flip it, and then do the furniture. I'm trying to get more back into the sheet metal shaping, and
Yep.
and I still have to finish that 59 TR.
TR, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you and I got to chatting, right? I was talking about a
Yeah.
65 TRC, and you're like, "What do
Yeah.
you think of this?" I'm like, "Oh my god, this is
Yeah.
incredible."
Yeah. See, great minds think alike.
It's true. We were drawn. It was the red mist. Tony.
Yeah, the red mist.
mist.
Yeah, you'll remember that.
Let's talk about so within the shop you have a space, is that right?
Yeah, I actually have because we never moved the challenge team down there. Ironically, I'm the only guy in that shop. So it's like zombie apocalypse, and I'm the only guy in the casino.
Oh my god.
So I have it's 13,400 square feet of space, and then there's a mezzanine too. It's just basically a storage.
Mm-hmm.
So I have all the projects spread out there. See, 4x8 CNC plasma table, the Haas CNC vertical mill lathe,
Nice.
3D printers, scanners, about like all the tools. So it's crazy because we have the capability and the tools to basically get back to my original dream, and that's make a car in-house. We have everything to completely do everything there. So
what would you build?
Oh man.
How do you pick, I guess, is the first question.
That's tough. Yeah. I would really like to do, because of my car design background, I would like to do something original. I mean, as cool as it is to shape like a GTO or a P4 or Lamborghini Miura, you're still just doing someone else's design.
Mm-hmm.
So that designer in me wants to do my own spin on something.
For sure.
I mean, I love
inspiration.
Oh, that's tough. I don't know. It would depend on the chassis. I would all use like older cars for inspiration. I mean, I don't know if that's because of my age, but like the older coach builders, even going back to like the Delahaye's, and Fagoni and Falaschi and all those, all those old sweeping forms, I mean, and one of my actually. I could probably get back and answer that. One of my favorite cars and my business partner's favorite cars is the 512 BBLM, the race car.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be cool to do a modern day version of that. That's something we had lined up that I would love to do. And I had started sketching it a while ago, but it kind of got sidetracked.
It's your ADD. Someone's got to pin you down and be like, you got to pick 3 cars, and you got to take the best of those 3, and that's it, right?
I do have. I bought when the market was different. I bought a 308 GTB, a Euro car. That's like my personal car, with the intention of doing. Everyone thinks like this is to do like a Singer version of that Ferrari for myself.
Yep.
So I've been working on that now for. I think 10 years, but I cut off the rear flares, the quarter panels. Yep. So I'm flaring it, but I actually only moved it about 1 inch because I want it to look factory. I want it to look,
Chip Foose had a quote, and it was something to the effect of, like, the biggest compliment you can get is when you go to a car show and people are standing in front of your vehicles and they know that you've modified the car, but they don't know what you've done.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just it's so subtle, but it's like, oh, that design change really changes the light line, or wow, that profile of the fender flare really, really makes that car pop, something different, but you're like, ooh, that's just so.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. But that's definitely my train of thought when it comes to design. Really subtle and not banging people over the head with a hammer. Like that Gunther Works Porsche that was there at Gas Muncie. It was right by where we ate too.
Oh, was it? I didn't. Yeah, maybe I did see it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't ring a bell.
That was all carbon fiber too, though. So,
wow. See, like I can't shape carbon fiber. I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, you could.
Yes,
right? You could always shape the metal and then pop a mold off of it.
That's
but
true. That's
yeah.
true. So your space, you're talking about all the different machinery and equipment that you have. You mentioned 3D scanning. Would you 3D scan a whole vehicle, or is this more for components?
Yeah, no, I have 3D scanned the whole vehicle, but we got it mostly just to do for components.
Gotcha.
But I have done a vehicle just because to get like the way I work to get my sculptures all I have to create the car in CAD as a solid,
Mm-hmm.
and I use Fusion 360. So I create the car using splines and different techniques, and it's real time consuming. So if I could scan a car and then just chop it up and make the trellis, that makes my life easier.
So how do you get the data? How do you get the data in the computer to begin with?
With the scanner?
No, well, just I guess with the scanner. Like you scan a model, full size. What do you do?
If I don't have, if I can't scan the car, which is 9 times out of 10, because most people aren't going to let you scan, their old Ferrari. It's just they forget. It's hard. So if I can't scan the car, then I I do all this research and I find all these blueprints and measurements, everything I can. And then you can get it, you'll get it really close enough for what I'm doing for art. I mean, you'll get it pretty close.
Yeah.
But then I've been fortunate where I do have a friend who's a big collector, and I was able to scan 250 GTO. So that was like my first, yeah. So that GTO that I have is scanned. So,
wow.
But it's unfortunately you spend. It was funny too because when I was younger in car design and we got introduced to the computers and design, I was always like, I don't want to have anything to do with that shit. I hate it. I hate it. And now I spend way too much time in the computer. Like even for like my next sculpture, like I'll plan it out in the computer in 3D and try and work out as many problems there. So
it's probably more efficient for your time.
Yeah, it definitely is. And one of the things that's cooler is I've gotten it's not called the Oculus Rift anymore. I think Meta makes it. It's the little VR headset and using Gravity Sketch.
Cool.
Because they have a feature where you could drag surfaces like sheet metal surfaces.
Yep.
So if I want to make like an abstract shape, I'll put that headset on and I'll experiment in that before I start.
And you kind of rotate it around, and
you can rotate it around. You can twist it. And it gives you a good sense of, it gives you that confidence before you start cutting up steel and getting into it. And then it gives you a sense of scale too, which is really cool.
Very neat. I saw on your Instagram, I don't think it was the 250 GTO. It was something else, more flowy, more ovular, like lower profile. You had I don't remember what it was. It was some kind of a body buck where you cut up all of it, and it was on the table. It was maybe quarter scale. Maybe. What were you working on there?
It was a body buck or but what was it made out of? It was steel.
It was like one by, I'm going to say it was like maybe like 3-inch bands.
Yeah. And that's the big one that was sitting on the table in front of the power hammer. That is a P34. And I was trying something different for that. So what I did is I cut a trellis on the plasma, and then I took 1/8 inch stainless steel rod, and I'm bending a structure on it a lot like what Christian Salsa does. That was like one of the keys for that day for me.
Nice.
And then I'm trying to bend. I wanted to do something more flowing, like it was in the wind tunnel and kind of shredding and coming apart. Because a lot of my stuff I try not to be too literal with the metal shapes. Like you'll see, even when I do like a quarter scale fender, I try and make it come apart. Just to add a little bit of
like it's moving,
a little artistic flair to it, and more importantly, to kind of separate my work from others. Because if I do a Ferrari or Lamborghini quarter scale sculpture exactly identical to real life, and then the next guy on Instagram does the same thing, our work blends together.
True.
And you got to stand out. That's real important.
Yeah.
For artwork, at least.
Absolutely. So where do you think the market is for art in the history of like when you first got started to today? How has it evolved and where does it currently stand?
Uh, it's interesting how it's evolved, because back in the day, we had a lot of older gentlemen, and I say back in the day, this is like when I started doing Cavallino in like 95 to like 2005. You had a segment of collectors. They were older guys. Most of them were man-made, but they were very big, like patrons. They were really into supporting the artwork. So they would collect whatever their taste was, and they would almost take you under their wing. And unfortunately, a lot of those guys kind of moved on or passed away, and the younger guys that are behind, that have followed, they're still into it, but it's not kind of with the same passion that the previous generation has.
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't have and I don't know if it's just their aesthetic is different. Their spaces are really, like they still have massive spaces where they keep their stuff, but they're very I don't want to say sterile.
Yeah.
But very, very super clean, super F1-ish, where they won't, I mean, they'll have artwork and all that, but it won't be the focal point. I mean, there's still some that do. So it's changed a little bit in that regard.
Yeah. So how do you tailor your art to modern times, where people might not want certain pieces, but they might really love something else? Like what's changed?
I'm still figuring that out, actually. That's the hard part, because the problem with that, and I've kind of gotten caught in this trap, is, and again, this could translate to even car design. If you're going to shape your own car or make your own hot rod, if you start thinking of creating something like, oh, I want to create this, if your focal point is just on selling it, creating something that people that'll like, it's harder, and you actually are less likely to sell it than if you just say, you know what, I'm gonna listen to my voice, my creative voice, and I'm gonna make this. And it only takes one. That's what I used to always tell my dad when I got started. I'm like, he's like, no one's gonna buy a big Ferrari sculpture. So it just takes one guy. So if you're true to your creative, whatever you're feeling, I think that's a better way to go than to think. Because I get caught in that trap. I'm like, oh, because the piece I'm going to work on next is huge. I like working big, and I worry sometimes. Oh, well, maybe they don't have room for this, and it holds you back. Right. Then you don't reach your potential. So that's why I say, with your project, you just go for it, man.
Just build it.
Swing for the fence. That's I've always had that mentality. But yeah, whenever I got sidetracked, and because when I was doing Cavallino too, towards the end there, and I noticed people were more likely to spend less. I would do smaller things to try and lower my price point, and then in the end, I would end up selling less anyways. And more importantly, I wasn't as happy doing it.
Doing smaller pieces instead of bigger pieces.
Yeah, or doing stuff that stuff that wasn't as wild, because it'll have a broader audience and maybe sell.
Right.
Yeah.
You go for that wow factor in your designs? Or do you try to keep a certain palette? Yeah,
I definitely try, and I think I do it just more because it's just more fun for me.
Yeah.
Like if I do something, even if it's really well done, and I know that it's not pushing it, and I know that 7 out of 10 of the next guys can do it, it's not as gratifying for me. I mean, I would rather go for it and fail.
You get to the end and you're like, that didn't work.
Yeah, that's what's tough about the replicas, because even if I do it and it's perfectly well done, and a tradesman or someone else appreciates it, at the end of the day, it's still something that a lot of other guys can kind of do.
Right.
I like getting a little crazy, especially if it's going to be art.
Yep.
If you have that freedom to go a little bit nuts with art or furniture, I like,
Yeah. It's a conversation piece. Like when people come through somebody's shop and they go, hey, where'd you get that? And they say, oh, Tony built it. I mean, when they start to chat about, the passion and the things that went into it, and the fact that maybe they hired you to build something incredible for their space, or, however that came to be, that's the whole point of the art. It's not going on the road, right? It's not a car. You don't have to put
no, exactly.
It's a beauty piece.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about it. That's why I encourage anybody, like when if you want to get into metal shaping, that's the easiest thing to do is to get into even abstract art. I mean, like they should follow like the big guys like John Prince Sculpture. He uses a lot of baileigh equipment and traditional sheet metal techniques.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys that do abstract art, because it gives them, they'll still learn all the same techniques, but it gives them that little bit of freedom where, it doesn't have to be precise and work with mechanical components and everything. And they can kind of learn what the metal does.
True. True. If you take a motorcycle fender and you twist it up, I mean, it'll end up in a corkscrew, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you untwist it, it's a motorcycle fender. So like one is a functioning component to a bike, and the other is a piece of abstract art. But it's the same form underneath, right?
Yeah.
So like you twist it back, and all of a sudden. So to your point, yeah, you don't have to fit anything that works if you're learning the craft. Great way to get
it. Same form, same principles, and then and then they can use the same tools, and they don't have to get caught up in, you get in that. I'll go, even I still to this day, like I'll get stuck and I'll go to YouTube looking for tutorials like on how to shape. Like that was a big thing for me, was that I get reverse curves still mess with me. That's why I like talking to Kyle.
The old Ferrari, the little whale tail on the Ferrari.
Yeah, the little reverse curves into a reverse curve and but you'll get, you'll go to YouTube looking for your tutorial, and a lot of the tutorials are disguised as equipment ads, and then they think, oh, well, to do a reverse curve, I need this, I need that, and so that's what's good about art, is abstract art, is they realize they could, you could just bend it over your knee.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. As long as you put some shape into it, you're good to go, man.
Yeah.
So in terms of what you're working on today, what do you got going on?
I'm shifted today to go back, focusing more towards the metal artwork and sculptures. I've got I'm about ready to start cutting. I'm doing the 250 GTO coffee table. So
that's so cool. I saw that on your Instagram.
So this is like my experiment, like we were talking about marketing to your question earlier. I'm gonna build it and do and film it, video it, and I'm gonna try bring a trailer. Because I've been watching Bring a Trailer.
There's some great stuff that comes through Bring a Trailer, like Ferrari art, whether it's original or handcrafted, or reproduction. And I mean, like, the stuff's amazing, and it sells for huge bucks.
It's incredible, and it's it's such a great marketing tool. I don't have to, for me to go to Pebble Beach is like 10, 15 grand, and then I got to pray I sell stuff there.
Just to break even and then come out ahead.
Just to break even, So that's why I was like, with the new age and the way everything is, so I'm focusing on that. And then I started another rabbit hole where I'm a big F1 fan. Ooh. So I'm working on. So I've got some of these crazy ideas in my head. Like if you see on my Instagram page, I did an Enzo sculpture out of composite and resin, where it's all like disintegrating.
Oh my god! I didn't see that. I'll check it out though.
I got it pinned to the top.
Okay.
So I'm doing a Senna's MP44.
Wow.
But I'm doing it 3rd scale.
Nice.
And I bought all these 3D printers because I'm going to combine 3D printing technology with the metal and carbon fiber.
Yep.
But the idea is to have it disintegrate as it goes back into clear too. Like I don't know if you're familiar with David Kimball used to do all like the cutaway drawings for Road and Track back in the day.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like solid to abstract form that you could see through, and
that's so cool.
And
is this going to be for you, or is this for sale?
No, again, I'll sell it. I'll do it. I'm going to try, and I keep saying this, I'm going to try and record it all and put it up on YouTube. And then sell it and bring a trailer after,
so that somebody can follow the journey of like, this is how this was born type of thing.
Yeah, I think it's, people find it intriguing how it works. I got to kind of break out. In the past, I was always raised like, this is what's tough for me for social media nowadays. I'm a nice suck at it. Because when I was younger in school, you never showed what you were working. You just did your work and then put it up on the board. You let your work talk. Because you were considered boastful You
Yeah.
know, if I went around the department and be like, hey, you should see the Corvette I'm working on, and
Yeah.
talked about it, they would think I was
Who is this
jerk.
guy? What's going on
Yeah,
here? What do you keep telling me?
but you have to change that now. Now it's different. You have to do it, but you do it, virtually online. So I'm
Absolutely. Well,
working on that. So
a lot of the problem with social media is like there's only if you're on Instagram for 3 minutes, right? Scrolling, let's just say
yeah,
you might see, 50 blocks of advertisement, whatever that is, whether it's, your stuff or my stuff or somebody else's stuff. There's only 50 spaces in that feed. So I mean,
yeah,
if you want to be one of those 50 spaces, like people have to post so much and so frequently and so much content and so often to say, hey, we're relevant to that person that's banging through. So, if people want to see everything that's going on these days, you got to like shed it from the rooftops. It's got to be over the top, right?
yeah. It's crazy, and you have to be like, the thing that's difficult for me is you have to be like real repetitive, and it almost feels like I go to post something, I'm like, Jesus, these guys are sick of seeing this already.
Yeah.
I'm gonna post it again, but I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, I had one reel that got, I think it's over 600,000 views.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how that's any different. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So this format, I mean, and kudos to you and what you're doing. I mean, this is the way to go, and I appreciate it too, because one of the things that I really miss from school and that I got from that baileigh thing is, I'm isolated.
Mm,
And when you're isolated and you're working on your own and you don't have like a network, you kind of, I don't know, you lose an edge a little bit, because when you're together with people like that share a common interest like we do, it really helps you be better and learn faster, and it's great. So that's cool that we could do something like this virtually. And
yeah. Do you find that the network of people in this craft, or running a Ferrari team of race cars, like the challenge, all this stuff, do you find that they inspire you, or they push you, or they like how do you find that it works on your psyche to become a better artist?
Oh yeah, they definitely inspire me. I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely pushes me and that's one of the main reasons. I'll start when I look at Instagram or YouTube and all that. There's guys that I admire, and when I see them working hard and doing something cool, it's like, oh
I
shit,
want to do that too.
I gotta not just beat them, but
Yeah.
I'm lazy. I got to get up and start working, and it's just like, oh wow, it just gets that. It gets back to like the old days when I was in school, and you're in the basement with a whole group of guys.
Yeah.
And somebody does 6 cool sketches and I only have 5. It's like, oh crap, I gotta do 2 more. And it's just really, it is inspiring. And the thing that's cool for me is I have not, and all the people that I've met and all these things that I've gone through for metal shaping, everybody has been super cool. I haven't met like a single person that wasn't just down to earth.
Yeah.
From baileigh, that thing. All those guys are legends.
There's a lot of great names there, for sure.
And then and they're so cool, and they're so down to earth and about helping you. And it's just it just stokes that fire.
It's
I
true.
wish I could do it more.
I completely agree, man.
Yeah.
It was life. I've said for a long time, a winner's going to win whether you help them or not. So you might as well be the guy to give them a hand up, right? And when we were at that event down in Texas, that was amazing. It was amazing. It was so special.
Yeah, it's incredible. And we had spoke about Ray's. I would love to get up to Ray's because he's so passionate.
Ray Shalene in
yeah. I'd love to get there. And there's just so many of these guys that are legends that if you could sponge off of them even just a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's a fast way to learn. Like I learned, from Bailey's, just watching Kyle do the reverse curve thing. I learned so much. Yeah, I learned so much faster. You just suck it all in.
Yeah, he built a Ferrari too. He was on the show.
Yeah.
I think his episode, he was like one of the first 5 episodes or something.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
he did a beautiful 275 GTP competition coupe.
Yeah, it's insane. I love that. I love his work, and back to the reverse curve, like he was showing the hood.
Let me get you some t-shirts made up. I will master the reverse curve. When nobody's on Instagram, that's the shirt you'll wear.
It would be so great to like have these guys like all on speed dial and just get them on FaceTime and be like, hey man, is
Yeah.
kicking my ass.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Too funny. Man, this has been so much fun. Like, I can tell your passion, your genuine passion for like, it just exudes through the camera, you know,
Thank
like
you.
I can tell. And the fact that you're an artist, you're a businessman, you know, you've gone deep from the education standpoint, and then you bring it through to fruition with the hands-on skills. It's incredible. It makes you unstoppable. So from this side of the mic, from me to you, thanks so much for being here. Where can people find out more about you and your art?
My Instagram page at hotshoestudios on Instagram. And then my website, I mean, I got to do better keeping it up, but mostly Instagram. That's probably, I keep trying to stay really current with that. So, but yeah, I encourage anyone to like, and if there's any young guys out there that are in this area, like one of the things that I offer, if you want to learn or just see if you like it, they come by my shop and you know, we'll make the bowl. I don't like have scheduled classes or anything like that, and I don't charge. But if there's anybody that wants to learn and see if they like it, I encourage them. You know, hey, if you're in this area or you want to drive down, just let me know. We'll make a bowl or a blister or whatever, and see if you like it. So
Very
try
cool.
and spread future generations, get them to get hooked.
Thanks for tuning into the Sheet Metal Shaping Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe, and tell a friend if you like this episode. And we will see you next time.